Good morning, my friends, and welcome back as we continue the journey of responding to our suffering in ways that enlighten, inform, and hold it steady. Perhaps sometimes our suffering is like an angry toddler, not at all to suggest that it is immature, but just simply that kind of energy. And just as you might do with that upset toddler who wants what she wants and can't get it, we comfort and express compassion. I know that you're suffering, and I'm here for you. And we sit with her, holding her and breathing with her until she is able to settle. Sometimes this takes only a few moments when the practice is inside of ourselves. But hold this image as a way of knowing what we mean by embracing suffering. The word suffering is a kind of dramatic word in our English language. But let me offer you a different understanding that is more subtle in its range of meanings. We suffer when we're in the condition that life does not satisfy. We don't like what's happening and we want it to go away or change. Throughout our time together, we practiced with resistance. So perhaps you know already that this kind of suffering refers to craving or attachment to having things a way that we want them to be. There are a couple of kinds of suffering, and the first kind is the physical or mental pain that comes from the inevitable stresses of being human, like aging, sickness, and ultimately facing death, our own or someone dear to us. And how do we respond to those things in a way that embraces them and can heal them? Not the conditions, but the way in which we respond to them. That's where the healing begins. And the second kind of suffering is the distress that we feel as a result of impermanence and change, such as the pain of failing to get what we want and of losing what we hold dear. These things are simply true in our life as human beings. In the practice of mindfulness, we can develop a kind of happiness that is not dependent on external objects or life events, but instead results from a state of mind that does not come and go as circumstances change, even though it is profoundly affected. We have learned how to hold steady in the present moment. So let us be seated. Steady, patient, open. If there is confusion right now, welcome that confusion. Because as we know, confusion is the state of mind that is most open to learning. In that suffering, there is goodness. Allow your breath to steady you as you bring it up your body and around over the top and down the front of your body. Allow that breath to go wherever it needs to, wherever your body is tight or your mind is resisting. Breathe into it and notice how there becomes space in that tightness. Allow it to come and notice it. And if it's very, very small so far, then welcome it as a seed for the growing capacity to sit steadily in a state of mind that heals our response to suffering. In this way of experiencing mindfulness in life, the process of healing, Thai says, begins when we breathe in and breathe out. bringing our mind home to its true home in our body. And by that, we stop and release our thinking. Ruminations can stop, as well as fear, worries, or uncertainty. Tai says, so just breathing in mindfully brings you a lot of freedom. In just a few seconds, you get freedom from the past, from the future, from your thinking, and from your projects. Without mindful breathing, there's always a kind of energy pushing us. But even if you have to make a decision, it's much better to make a decision when you are free, rather than to try to make it under the influence of your fear, anger, regret, and worries. It is entirely possible that with our minds and bodies unified, you'll be established in the present moment, and you'll recognize the many conditions of happiness that are right here and right now. And so the healing of suffering begins the moment we mindfully breathe in that first breath, says Tai. So let us practice that mindful breathing in the minutes that we have left together today. Breathing in, I hold gently the areas of suffering in my life, in my mind. I welcome it because it's there and it's true. Breathing out, I know that everything in this life is impermanent, and in the present moment, that brings me great happiness for all that is here with me today. Allow yourself to breathe in that gratitude for all the ways in which our suffering can actually bring us right to happiness. That's how it happens. We sit with our suffering, open and willing to learn from it. And one of the things that we learn is tremendous appreciation that some things in this present moment have not passed and are not impermanent. They are right here. Inside of any resistance and suffering releases. If we choose to say, I welcome life just as it is, right now, and because of that distress and the anchor of this mindful breathing, I am no longer distracted by my resistance, and I am able to freely feel the happiness and the joy that exist right in this present moment. Sometimes when my suffering hits me, I am knocked down into grief. I want the struggles of those I love to be lifted, and my heart cries out for them and with them. And as that happens, we draw closer. And in mindful breathing and awareness, I find that possibility of joy in the connection that we share. And what a contrast that is to the suffering of a painful condition that only progresses and will not resolve. The welcoming of that suffering, yes, it shines a light, a bright light, on all that is present. Think about where that might be true in your own life, my friends. It is not denial. It's appreciating that both are present, suffering and joy. Then we are free to deeply feel that joy in the present moment. See where you might practice this today as you go out. Namaste. Amen.